is the Girl Chat International podcast. Welcome to the Girl Chat International podcast, where we talk about modern day topics and aim to cultivate a safe and empowered community across the globe. My name's Aubrey, and this is my co-host,
Hersyn. Welcome back.
Yeah, so we have a really good episode today. We had an awesome guest who had a lot to say about mental health, men's mental health, and we even had some really good chats about relationships, whether it's dating or friendship, and the generational influences. Really awesome. And he's one of our GCIers, so one of our faithful listeners, which is really cool to have someone who, knew what was up coming on the podcast. But before we get to that, we'll start with our empowered questions. So the question for this week is, what have you learned or relearned recently? And I can start.
All right.
And one of those is about rest. So essentially this week I was so exhausted that my body was telling me like, all right, you won't slow down, I'm going to slow you down, where I just couldn't even keep my eyes open sometimes. So for me, I was relearning the importance of like actually prioritizing rest and sleep rather than just saying, oh yeah, I'll get to it. Because when I just put it to the back burner, will I ever actually feel good? Probably not. So it's just reminding me like I definitely need to take a rest day this week where I sleep in and chill out, or my body will continue to choose that for me, which isn't good, So yeah, that's what I learned. What about you? What did you learn about yourself?
Before I answer, I just want to say I'm proud of you for putting yourself first and listening to your body. That's very important.
Thank you.
I'm proud of you.
Thanks. I appreciate that.
Now, something that I've learned is strength training. And it's important to, because like I'm trying to, be fitter and, to lose the pounds and all that for health, obviously. So I've learned that strength training is important. And that's how you're going to transform all those fats into muscles. And that's how you will build a toner body. And yeah, and it's been amazing. I feel great. I feel stronger. But sometimes I do strain myself. Like right now, I'm having a muscle strain, but that's fine. Icing it definitely helps. But yeah, so if you're listening, please prioritize your health. Since both of us are talking about health, right? Like you prioritizing rest and then me strength training. So yeah.
Yeah, it's so important. And a lot of us, honestly, I feel like everybody should do strength training at some point. And for everyone, that will look different. For some people, you're starting with 3-pound weights, and that might be all you do for 5 years or more. But it helps so much because our bodies, think about it, the gravitational pull is so intense on our bodies. It's nice to feel strong. And I'm not saying you have to look like some muscular bodybuilder or anything like that, but it's nice to have a little extra strength. It gives you that little push that you need at the end of your day. I know for myself, when I started, I would be teaching and my legs would be shaking a little bit because I was so tired, because I would stand for like 6 hours every night. But then once I started strength training, that doesn't happen anymore. It's like it showed me like I needed to build my muscle to be able to withstand that part of my job. So if you figure out like what you might need, it can help. I mean, physical therapy is such a good example of that because, for example, like your wrists could always hurt or feel weak. So then you go to physical therapy and they teach you how to like strengthen your wrists, and they do different interventions that make them stronger. So then
Yeah.
opening a door doesn't hurt, because, like, sometimes people are really rough with opening a door. So I don't know. It's just we all have something that we could focus on for sure and strengthen and feel better in the day.
Or like, I mean, if you don't have weights, or you're not a gym rat, like you do not like going to the gym, so then you can start by doing it at home. Like there are so many
Hmm?
videos on YouTube that I follow. Even doing a plank, it's considered strength training.
Oh
Or even you
yeah.
can do, yeah, or like push-ups, on the wall. Like, I mean, you stand against the wall and you do push-ups. That's, yeah, so that really helps tone your arms and give you strength. So there are many ways, and we have the internet these days. So
Yeah, so many good YouTube videos. You can even dance.
mm-hmm.
But
Oh yeah.
yeah, dancing is fun. I did that once when I was needed a fun way to work out. But even when I was saying those 3-pound weights, I found those
Mm-hmm.
at a store. Like, I don't know what types of stores you all have in Malaysia, but here in the US, we have Marshalls, TJ Maxx, Burlington Coat Factory, and pretty much there are stores that sell everything and anything you could think of. But
Yeah,
they
we have them
had,
here.
yeah, you do? Okay, cool. Well, one of the things they had was through the brand BB, which is hilarious. These like 3-pound weights, and they're
Mm-hmm.
soft, so like they could be hanging around your closet or your house, and you could be watching TV and just going like this. Like it's great. Sometimes I do that. So, all right, let's get into the interview.
So today our guest is Mathew Akkal, who is a 26-year-old entrepreneur and mental health advocate. Mathew is a proud owner of a thriving car rental company, demonstrating his keen sense for business and innovation. But what truly sets Mathew apart is his deep passion for mental health awareness. He's not just a businessman. Mathew is also the assistant network lead of Saath Chicago, a pivotal organization dedicated to dismantling the stigma surrounding mental health in the South Asian community. Through his work with Viasat, Mathew is at the forefront of creating a more open and supportive dialogue around mental health issues, proving that compassion and understanding can indeed drive change. Hello, Mathew. Welcome to the pod. Hi.
Hello.
Woo.
Thank you for having me.
Okay.
Awesome.
Let's get right in. So, can you tell us a little bit more about the organization and the role that you play?
Yeah, of course. So we are Saath. It's basically mean like from the meaning itself, it's just we are together.
Together. Yeah.
Right. So it's basically like an organization. Our goal is to just change the narrative surrounding mental health and, the stigma around it, especially. I'm sure you guys are aware that the basic community has a huge stigma around mental health and, awareness of it even, which is just damaging and not good for everybody involved. So,
Mm-hmm.
and I've witnessed it myself, just people struggling with mental health. And then, people, even if it's unintentionally, just kind of like isolating people over some small things, even. And then isolation is not good for anybody's mental health. So,
Mm-hmm.
what we aim to do is just provide a community and a safe space for everybody. We, hold events where we, just discuss mental health, break down the stigma, and just provide a safe space for everyone to be willing to share their own stories if they would like to, and for everybody to learn from each other's stories as well. It's always good for people to see, especially like growing up in a society like the Desi community where there's a stigma, to see other people of their background as well, going through similar struggles, and then overcoming them, or going through a similar-ish story and then overcoming that. So yeah, we are Saath. That's our mission in a nutshell. As of right now, I believe there's 19 total networks across the US that are either
Mm-hmm.
active or in development. And
Yeah.
by in development, I pretty much mean just like creating like their boards or interviewing and hiring and building those up. 11, or actually I think 12 now are active. So we're still very much in the like growing and expanding phase. We actually have a national board overseeing everything. So also for those listening, we're hiring as well. So we are we are hiring. There's a finance lead position in the national board. So, anyone who's interested, like, feel free to reach out. We'll definitely like reach
So
out
wait,
to reviews.
how exactly did you get into, like, how did you find this organization? Tell us more, on that.
Right. Yeah, so the way I found out about it was actually just the Chicago page. They just
Mm-hmm.
all I don't know how they found me on Instagram, but they just sent me a follow request, and
Mm.
it was a small baby page at the time. Like they only had like 2 posts, and but
Wow.
like I think Preeti was pretty much the only one running it at the time. Preeti, the meaning being the overall network lead of Chicago. But she did a great job conveying the message, like
Mm-hmm.
essentially what I was telling you guys about the organization, striving to, give change and like, break down the stigma. And it was kind of like love at first sight. I like just saw those posts and I was just like, oh my God, this is perfect. Like, I just need
Oh.
to. I don't think I was even like trying to get involved at first. I just DM'd the page just saying like, hey, I just love what you guys are doing, and I'm just wishing you all the best. Like, and then through that, we just kind of had like a little bit of a conversation. Um, and we just saw eye to eye a lot. And I think eventually she was just like, you could just apply for a position and just join if you really like it that much and you want to get involved. So I was like, absolutely. So yeah, eventually Preeti reached out through like email for like an interview. And okay, she'll tell everybody the story. I don't remember this, I swear, but apparently during the interview, I joined the link with like a tank top or something like that, like just from the gym. I don't
Mm-hmm.
remember doing this, but she tells everybody the story. And honestly, it probably is true because she's not really the type to like make stuff up like that. But either way, I guess it still worked though because we saw eye to eye on everything, and yeah, eventually she just hired me to be the assistant network lead, which is my role in the Chicago network. And
Mm-hmm.
essentially, like, so for a while it was just us two, and we were pretty much just trying to grow the page as well as like get new people involved. So like as the assistant network lead, I kind of help Preeti oversee everything. I guess I'm the assistant to the network lead. I'm kind of like the Dwight Schrute of our
There you go.
network. So yeah, and then as of right now, we have Preeti as the network lead, and then we have a finance lead as well as a social media lead, PR lead. Like, yeah, it's pretty stacked up with our Chicago network. And then
Mm-hmm.
we hosted like last year a virtual event through Zoom. People just joined, and it's not even just of like South Asian backgrounds, like people of like all kinds just join, and we went into different breakout rooms as well as had a presentation, and just had like nice little intimate conversations with everybody, and it was pretty great. Afterwards we had a in-person event with I think we collaborated with the Milwaukee network, as well as I don't, you guys probably know like Alicia Gupta. She's like a activist based in California, and that was like in person, and we had like a panel,
Oh,
and we live streamed that on like Instagram. So just have like those kind of conversations around mental health, and I think like we had like 1,000-ish viewers or something like that at a point. And then, that helped, bring in more people, and a lot of people applied. And then, yeah,
Yeah.
so we got our full board eventually.
that's great. So tell us more, what was your favorite event that you've either attended or helped plan? through the organization so far?
Yeah, definitely that in-person panel for sure. Like,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I have to give Alicia a lot of credit. She was, breaking her back trying to like get that event like in order and like everything. We hosted it at this dance studio, like right by, like not that far from like where my office space is. And yeah, it was just like a bunch of people. Feel free to show up. And Ranjit Singh, who was of the national board, he came. And I think he was the MC, kind of like just kind of introducing everybody as well as giving prompts and questions to the
Mm-hmm.
panel surrounding mental health. And it was great. We had Alicia as well as like a couple other people that were like also like advocates or also in like the therapy space. So it was great. A lot of people watched, a lot of people eventually like we had the audience ask questions. So I definitely felt like that's up there with one of my favorite events because it was just so interactive as well as just pivotal in terms of like helping us like grow as a organization.
Absolutely. That's great. And then across the organization, would you say a lot of friendships have been formed and
Yeah, absolutely. And that's the goal too, creating
Mhm.
like long-lasting friendships for everybody and, just a community. I think that, I mean, that's always healthy for, your mental state. Like if you look
Yeah.
at, I mean, if you look at like civilizations or just like areas where people like have like a long like life expectancy, one of the biggest contributing factors is just like a nice tight-knit community. My grandma lived to like 102 and she had like 10
Wow.
children and was surrounded by
Wow.
people all her life. So
Aw.
yeah, it's just very important. I remember recently I saw a video talking about loneliness and how the stress you get from loneliness is more like contributing to like pretty much all cause diseases like cancer, heart disease, and other stuff. And that's more dangerous than being like morbidly
Mm-hmm.
like obese or any kind of like other things or like chronically smoking or any of those things. Loneliness way worse, and it's not something that people talk about enough. People are willing to like fat shame and act like they're really like worried about their health or something like that, but then there's like
Mm-hmm.
loneliness and no one really is willing to talk about how important mental health is.
I
Right.
mean, you said speaking about friendship, right? Even
Yeah,
I mean, through the page we met. I mean,
yeah,
virtually. So
yeah,
that's friendship. I don't even know
exactly.
how. Yeah, I don't even know how we are start like all like you said like they have like 12. Or, I
Yeah,
mean,
active networks,
all
yeah,
over the US, right? Like, yeah.
yeah.
And they followed my page, and I was like, wow, like so many Viasat, like all over the US following me. And then Ranjit Singh, who is he? Is he
Yeah, so he's part
the
of the
director
national
or the
board.
founder?
I think he is a part of the founding board as well. So
Mm.
originally We Are Saath was founded in like around the fall of 2017,
Oh,
and he
wow.
was a part of that. I think they started off in Milwaukee, and Ranjit is the network lead of the Milwaukee network. So and then he's a has a different role in the national board, but
Mm-hmm.
by the way, he's part of the national board as well. Originally, the organization was actually called I Am Shakti, but
Ah,
around 2020, they decided to rebrand into We Are Saath, just because they felt that it would be more of an inclusive name. So,
yeah,
yeah,
That's great. And I mean, the
interesting.
fact that they from 2017 till now, that's a lot of growth. That's like
uh,
huge. Most organizations don't grow that quickly. So that's
yeah,
amazing. I love to hear that.
yeah. Within just like 5-ish years, they got like 19-ish networks now. Like, especially like the
Yeah.
fact that we got like 7-ish that are like in development already. Like
Mm.
after this 12 that are active, it's nuts.
Yeah, that's amazing. That's great. So, can you share with us a little bit more about, well, actually, we haven't even gotten here yet because we were talking about stigma and mental health, but now I want
Mm-hmm.
to talk a little bit more about men's mental health and the stigma associated with that. So, you can either share your own experiences or what you've seen with other men. just your thoughts on the stigma.
Oh man, yeah. There's so much to go over in terms of that topic itself that like we could go on and on for like days about that.
Right.
I think probably one of the biggest things to address in terms of that is that like I mean it's like that whole age-old thing of like men shouldn't cry or whatever. You
Tell them,
know,
tell them. Yeah.
it's I think that like a lot of guys they struggle with trying to hold their masculinity and still address their mental health issues or like keep their mental health intact. Um, I think a lot of guys don't know how to navigate those two things. They think that there's somehow opposites in a way that, you know, taking care of your mental health, which is probably like one of the most manly things you could really do. I mean, not,
Right.
but like
It's
it's
so
just that like
sexy when you take
taking
care of
care
your
of
mental
yourself
health.
as a man, you know, like
Yeah.
that's important. Like, I mean, like how think about how childish it is to like have like a flesh wound and then just like ignore it and just like let it be and just be like, no, I'm not doing anything about that. I'm not like it's just I'm just gonna let it in and then it'd be what you catch an infection and then it will get worse, you know? It's easy to
Right.
grasp these concepts physically, but yeah, I think a lot of guys they just think that somehow, you know, it's whether it's crying or whatever it is that it could kind of take away from their masculinity somehow. And so I think I remember I recently watched like one of you guys' previous podcasts with your other guest, the Bad Indian
Oh
Therapist.
yeah, she was great.
Yeah, and I remember she was talking about how like, you know, mental health advice and therapy, it's gonna be different for different people. You know, some men will cry a little bit easier than other men, and that's fine, you know? Like it's not like all men are going to, you know, have the same reasons of crying or like the same kind of triggers. And that's just the nature of how we are. We're all a little, you know, unique and stuff like that. So
Different.
yeah. So it's just ultimately it is going to be up to the individual of how to navigate being a man and still, you know, taking care of your mental health as well. A lot of guys just don't know where they're crossing the line of, okay, I genuinely need help. I genuinely need to like take care of this. I need to let out a good cathartic therapeutic cry versus, oh, I'm just being a baby. I think those are two things that are very hard for men to kind of know the difference of.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the metaphor that you did use though. The physical wound, like you wouldn't just let that sit and get
Yeah.
worse and get infected. So why wouldn't people, you know, look
Yeah.
inside when they're feeling sad? But it's because of the masculinity component.
For
It's that
sure.
fear of looking weak or even feminine because, oh my gosh, it's the worst thing in the world. But yeah, well, thank you for sharing.
And
Yeah.
also, thank you for listening to our episode and being a supporter since day one. Like,
Oh yeah,
I
man.
I didn't know you listened to like the episode with the Bad Indian Therapist. So
That's
Yeah,
yeah,
she was
awesome.
thank
great.
you.
Yeah. And of
Yeah,
course, you
that's
guys are just great to listen to. You guys are like, I love the questions that you guys ask in a lot of these like podcasts in general. It's just great.
oh, thanks.
Thank you.
Appreciate that.
Shall
Yeah.
we
So now we're getting into some juicy chat.
question? Yeah.
So Hersyn, you could go and yeah, let's chat.
Okay, I'm picking the best one. Okay, let's start. What are your thoughts on if he wanted to, he would?
I'd say that's facts, honestly. Like, it's just, yeah, that's just true. If he wanted to, he would. I mean, full disclosure, I'm in a very healthy relationship with my basically wife at this point.
Aw.
Um, she like we're very direct. Like, I mean, not to like, you know, brag or anything, but like we're both very direct. I'm direct, and then we communicate very healthy. I mean, as cliche as it sounds, the key to that is direct, very clear, open communication.
Mhm.
And yeah, I mean, if she wants, she'll communicate and convey like what she would like in the relationship, what she expects, what certain boundaries, and if he wants to, if I want to like respect all of those things, I want to put in the effort and put in the work, I do it. If I
Mm.
do what I want to do, it's simple. I think as a girl, you want. I mean, it's like, what's that scene with Jennifer Aniston and the guy where like doing the
Oh
dishes,
yeah.
something like that? Like,
Hmm.
and the guy's like, why would I want to do the dishes? And she's like, I want you to want to do it or something like that. It's like, it's not necessarily like enjoying doing the dishes, but you want to make your wife's life a little bit easier. You want to, you know, have a tidy house. You want all these things. You act on it. It's simple
Hmm.
as that, really. So I'd say that's a fact, 100%. Because I mean, yeah, you just put in the effort. It's a two-way thing, marriage, any relationship. So if he
Yeah.
wants to put in the effort, he will. If he doesn't put in that kind of effort, a lot of girls, I think they probably wait for,
Hmm.
um, I don't
I
know.
guess he's just not that into you.
That's
Yeah.
honestly as terrible. Hopefully I'm not breaking up to a bunch too many relationships, but like I think that's
No, but
essentially the core of it. The problem is that he's
Right.
just
yeah.
doesn't care enough if he's
Hmm.
not putting in the effort. If especially if you've conveyed and
Yeah.
said certain things that, hey, this is what I like, this is how I feel loved, this is
Hmm.
Hmm.
important to me. And if he's still not really doing that, I mean, not necessarily, it's not like every guy is going to change overnight, but still, like, you can definitely take baby steps and, like, put
Hmm.
in some more effort and do certain things. And girls are, like, to give you guys credit, girls are generally pretty understanding. Like, even
Hmm.
if a girl says something's important to you, and even if, like, you don't do it exactly how she would want, if she sees the effort that you're like
We would
trying,
understand. Yeah.
yeah, if they're that's typically good enough. And like girls are pretty not that hard to please in terms of
Right.
making them feel appreciated.
Hmm.
So yeah.
Yeah, the bare minimum feels great at moments, like
The
Yeah.
bare minimum is on the ground. Like,
yeah.
Yeah.
so
Yeah, and that's interesting too. So a lot of people are always saying like, oh, he can't right now, or he can't give me answers, or he's not in a place to change, or he can't be there for the relationship because he's struggling. But honestly, for myself, and advice I would give friends is, then that's your point. If they're telling you they can't do these things, then you should probably exit that. And maybe, if they want to come back one day, maybe they will. Honestly, I typically think they'll never come back.
they
But
always come back.
yeah, well, but are they coming back in the way that the woman wants? No way.
Nope.
Like,
Nope. Nope.
Yeah.
it's typically the whole thing of they aren't into it the way that like a woman would want them to be into it.
Oh yeah. No, I just actually just recently one of my good friends, I'm not gonna say who, but like they just through like a pretty bad breakup with a guy that just wasn't really putting in the effort and was prioritizing certain people over her.
Hmm.
And she, obviously she was heartbroken at the time, but like then she was saying certain things about the relationship, how little of an effort that he put in. This dude didn't even like buy her like presents or stuff like that. Like I think it was like her friend that had to like tell him to do certain things. And then even then it was like a very half kind of effort. And I was telling her, like, listen, I know you're crying and that it seems like bad at the moment that like, you're separated and stuff like that. But think of like all these things like all this lack of effort and all this prioritizing of other people over you and what kind of lack of respect that he's showing you, if this breakup didn't happen, that would have been your life. Like
Yeah.
that would have been what's, continuing for the rest of, he wouldn't have changed, especially if he sees that like you're not breaking up with him and that, you're letting him get away with all this stuff. He has no reason to change either.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. So it's like, come on, ladies, like set the standards high,
Yeah.
or at
I
least
think
set a
it
standard. Because if we set the standard, the guy will either show us by meeting it or not. That's something I've done in relationships. I'll set a standard, I'll give a few weeks, and if they just can't do it, then I know, all right, I can't do this for the rest of my life.
Yeah,
I think
for
it also
sure.
goes back to like, maybe they've grown up with parents, like with parents whom are always arguing in front of them, seeing the barest minimum from their dads. So they think
Yeah.
that, okay, this is what I'm going to accept too. Like if he's putting in half effort, this is what I see from my dad. So I'm also going to accept that. Especially in South Asian families, we see that a lot. So, so I think it all stems down to the self-worth that they have. Yeah.
Yeah. I think, yeah, a lot of people inadvertently learn what love is
Mm.
like through their parents. As uncomfortable as the topic that is,
Yep.
if you see your parents having a toxic relationship, an actually healthy relationship might look fake to you, If
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
see your dad not putting in effort, or you see your dad acting a certain way with your mom, you know, you probably think that that's the standard, that's how it's supposed to be, and that if we're not arguing, or if we're like, and if like
Yeah, he
one
don't love
is,
me.
yeah. And if the man is like putting in all this effort or being nice, he must be like a wolf in sheep's clothing. There must be something fake about this. There's definitely like something fishy going on here. So definitely,
Mhm.
I think love languages also is kind of like that too. Like a lot of people typically gravitate towards people that are similar-ish to how their parents loved them.
Yeah.
Right. And you know what? This is also reminding me, I don't know if you two have watched this show yet. Hersyn, you might not have, but and actually, Mathew, you probably haven't either, but it's okay.
What is
Love,
it?
so it's Love is Blind United States, and it's the
I
newest
have.
season.
Oh, the newest
The
one, no.
newest, yeah, the newest season. Like
Okay.
maybe you guys have seen like
I've heard a
the other.
lot
Is
of,
that like a reality show?
Yeah, it's a reality
yeah,
show and
it's good.
it's on Netflix, and they pretty much actually, yeah, you should watch it, Mathew, with your wifey,
Yeah.
because it's really cool. It's a social experiment where people meet on they're in a pod and there's a wall in between. So they can't see each other. So they're truly building love on a emotional connection.
Personality. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And what we've been finding is it's not always working. The couples that it works for, that's probably how they dated outside of the pods anyway. They were probably more deep and looking for that emotional connection.
Hmm.
But one of the couples, it was super toxic what the mom was telling them, because both of them, they had their struggles and their fears because of their parents' divorces and how toxic those relationships were. Like for the guy, his dad cheated on the mom for
Oh,
like
no.
20 years of their, maybe even like 20 years of their 25-year long marriage or something like that. It was just a toxic marriage. But then his fiance's mom was like, oh, stop looking at it that way. Don't like stop, stop, stop. And she was saying, they did it though. They got 25 years. They're better than you guys because they stayed. I was like, what is happening right now? And this is so toxic. But it was like such a good
What?
picture of how, parents can skew the way we view things. 25 years means
That's how
nothing
it
if it's
is.
bad.
They're
Yeah.
South
prioritizing
Asian
quantity over
families.
quality.
Right.
Yeah, that's how it is. I mean, I don't know about the white and black communities, but like in South Asian communities, they force you to stay in your marriage because quantity matters than quality.
Right.
So like
Yeah.
it's okay if it's cheating on you, it's okay if he hits you. Like just stay, you know.
Mm-hmm. Right.
That's
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
It is. It is. And yeah, that was a black couple and the black mom. She was like, oh, 25 years, 25 years. So
So
it's
I guess all
interesting.
people of color then.
Yeah, probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a problem. And then even within religions, I always say that too. There's a lot of
Mm.
struggles. So like if someone has like like the sweet Christian mom, like yeah, she's a sweet Christian woman, but maybe some of her thoughts on what she, you know, accepts in her marriage might not be healthy. I mean, or that they're not healthy because her husband might be verbally abusive, but she wants to clutch onto that marriage because she's like, this is part of, you know, my promise to God that I stay in this marriage. And that's a lot of pressure.
yeah.
So,
Wow. Yeah, no, I
mhm,
just it's an interesting like common phenomenon that like a lot of guys with absent-ish dads or
mhm.
like just not
Mm.
great dads, especially dads that were terrible to their moms. Like a lot of these guys, they'll hate their dads and they'll love their moms, but they still will kind of turn
Turn
out like
out
their
exactly
dads.
like the dad, right?
Yeah,
Oh
it's
yeah, the
weird.
genetics play strong.
Yeah, I was wondering about that. Like, why is that such a common phenomenon? And I'm also wondering, it's like, yeah, sure, you hate your dad. You don't necessarily want to be like him if he's the type of person that's absent and abusive to your mother. But in the same way, if you look on the flip side, he's also loves his mother, and his mother put up with a lot of those things. So, do they still subconsciously want a wife that would put up with those same things that their mom would have put up with?
Potentially. And also, a lot of the time, the mom treats the son the same way that she treated her husband when they were
Mhm.
together or whatever, too. And so sometimes that turns into enabling behaviors that maybe the son somehow picked up, even genetically, and it can just grow. It's so wild.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
that makes sense. Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
Epigenetics. Yeah,
Yeah, it's
we learn about
unfortunate.
it.
that's
And
crazy.
also, I think maybe he just does not have the strength, like to be brave and to be different. You
Oh,
know,
yeah. I
accountability.
mean,
Yeah,
also, like, if you think about it too from an environmental perspective,
societal pressure.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
That's
if
yeah.
yeah, and if they don't have a dad around to like actually show them, oh, this is what it looks like to do XYZ for your wife or girlfriend, whatever. I mean, sometimes people get stuck and they're like, wait, so what do I do? Because I've never seen. I mean, and this is like not a all-inclusive thing because some people who never had a dad, like they're freaking amazing, you know, but
Mm-hmm.
there's so many different answers behind why that could happen.
Yeah, it's because
And yeah,
it's different. It's because it's always different case by case, really.
right.
And yeah, it's a cyclical thing too, right?
Hmm.
Like the mom probably, like you said, was probably not in the best environment either, or a dad had a dad that taught them how what love is really like, and
Hmm.
they, maybe pressured them into being in this kind of relationship with this person, and then of course they create a terrible environment for their kids, and then their kids will also probably most likely end up with like, unless they end up putting in the work to go to therapy and work through those things,
Hmm.
you know, they would also end up being gravitated towards a similar situation, and then they create that for their own kids, and then it just keeps going until one person eventually just breaks that with like, a lot of self-reflection.
Exactly. And that's why it's like for people who are listening or watching on YouTube, it's if you don't want to follow the cycles of, you know, your parents, grandparents, great grandparents, it does not hurt to go to therapy to coaching, something to like train your brain to go the other route and to feel better every day, like feel better than the way your parents probably felt with the pain that was on their heart. I mean, if that's one way to look at it, it's like waking up with peace rather than a burden on your shoulders.
Yeah, especially like, yeah, brown men too. Like I was still like thinking about like how like it's a huge stereotype, especially that like brown guys are babied by their moms. Like you see so many memes
Don't
and
tell me
videos
about it.
online.
I know it too well.
There's so many videos online of like how they see mom treats the daughter versus the son. And it's like
Right.
night and day sometimes. And yeah, it's like so like a lot of guys, like you were saying how like the mom, like it's like when they're in like abusive kind of relationships, the mom did like enabling behavior.
Mm-hmm.
That's definitely a huge form of that too.
Oh
So
yeah. That's that
yeah,
babying component. And so then of
exactly.
course, like they don't know how to
Right.
be different if they were babied. And
Yeah.
I feel bad for the moms because they're doing it because they're so freaked out too. Oh, I want my son to be the best he can be.
Yeah.
So then they baby, but like they don't realize that's actually not helping.
Yeah, because the son ends up kind of being like, oh, this woman right here worships the ground that I walk on. Like, and then they meet a wife and they're like, who was like actually being a woman that stands up for themselves. And they're like, wait a minute, this is how I have to like actually put an effort now. Like, I have to like,
Mhm.
like treat you like not like a person worshiping me. Like, this is terrible. I'm not gonna do this.
Mhm.
And then they end up alone because, what self-respecting woman would want that actively?
For sure. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
What a
Yeah.
great man, Matthew. What a great man you are.
I'm just perfect. I'm just amazing.
That's amazing. So speaking of men, so for women and girls who are interested in guys, what should they know about guys? Like what tip could you throw out there
Tell us a little
for the
secret.
single ladies, I guess?
Oh man,
Yeah.
there's so many.
Yeah, for the single ladies here.
I'd say just don't settle necessarily, but also another thing that I like was like hearing like from that also like the bad Indian therapist was talking about in that podcast was like don't also like look for like just for lack of a better word, just like dumb things that don't necessarily express
Physical
like the guy's
appearance.
character. Like
Yeah.
Yep.
I remember yeah, you'll see like so many girls talking about like icks. I mean all four icks, there's nothing wrong with icks, but like sometimes it's something like it's if you let it like I feel like if you genuinely love a guy and he's like a good person, like you won't let those icks bother you anyways. Anyways,
Mm-hmm.
that's a
Yeah.
whole different story, but
I agree though, because the icks, it's gotten out of
yeah.
hand.
Oh yeah,
It's
it does kind of get a little bit like yeah. So like if you're gonna let an ick kind of ruin the potential, like a potentially really good thing going on, like that's pretty tragic, really.
yeah, they could be missing out on an amazing partner over something really stupid. And some of those
Yeah,
icks, those could be changed, like if someone's made aware of something that makes people go, ew, what are you doing? I mean, they're gonna want to change that.
yeah,
Or
Yeah.
maybe it's something you can kind of laugh at and see as like a cute quirk sometimes.
right.
Hmm.
Yeah, that stuff is yeah, it's a whole different thing. But yeah, like she was saying, like just kind of evaluate this guy's character truly. Don't look for anything superficial. Like I remember
Mm-hmm.
recently I was talking with guys about like, random things we're looking for in girls.
Mhm.
And one guy was saying that he could never date a girl with like a certain type of accent or something like that. And I was just like, that says nothing about like what she's like though. Like she could be wifey material, like chef's kiss wifey material, like perfect, like now across the board. And she just has an accent. Like, what does that have to do with anything? Like, she could still raise your kids like how perfectly, like I'd be a perfect partner for you for life. And like, I don't know, random
Yeah.
things like that. Don't like let that be like something that's like a deal breaker. And yeah, as cliche as it sounds, I think the best dating advice for both guys and girls is to just be yourself and also work on yourself as well. So, be the best version of yourself and just be that and vet anybody that like so that they would be compatible with that. Because I feel like just simply by being yourself, that's already in a way a weed out tool for people that wouldn't be compatible with you. You know what I mean? Like if
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
you're a certain way and other people don't like people that are that way, then let them be away from you. Let them get repelled by you, so that that way you're only surrounded by people that would, want to be with you, and that you would only want to be with people like that as well.
Absolutely. Agree. Yeah, no, that's great. Great advice. This will definitely end
The
up being a reel because people need to hear it.
I love accents, so yeah, that's
Yeah.
yeah.
But
I
the
would be
thing
down with.
is, there's been studies on accent preference, and people really like have biases against all different types of accents. And
Mm.
it's like, oh my gosh, so
Mhm.
you're gonna let a biasy or something you don't like about an accent stop you from maybe having the love of your life? What the heck?
I
Right?
mean, it's just
That's
related to racism, right? Like even skin tone, if you're a little bit darker, they wouldn't want to date someone of that skin tone, or like with the accent. I think it's associated with racism. So
Yeah, because if you think
yeah.
about it, like we're only looking at one accent of their accent from their region of your language, right? How do you sound
Mm.
speaking their language? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
Like
Mm-hmm.
sure, like people love to put on Indian accents, right? Like in
Mm-hmm.
for
Ah, yeah.
English, but like how great do American accents sound when when they're speaking Hindi or like an Indian language? Like it's not like if you reverse it, it's not like necessarily like like they're gonna find you the most flattering either. It's like,
Right.
and then like people try to act like it's. I remember I saw a bit. I try not to be that guy that gets offended by comedians doing bits because I kind of understand. Sure, it's a performance, but like sometimes it can be like annoying. One guy, I think he was forgot his name. He was having a bit about like British accents being somehow like amazing, which by the way, I don't even necessarily care for British accents, but I feel like they've convinced the world that they're somehow more fancy than everyone because they
Yeah.
conquered everyone. And now
Because
they're
Right.
colonized,
yeah,
yeah.
they conquered everyone and they're like, you know what? I just want to let you know, like, we're the standard, we're fancy, and we're like all
Mm-hmm.
these good things. And then like Indian accents, somehow he was like, yeah, no, Indian accents are so goofy or something like that. He was just talking about Indian accents, and I was like, bro, like they're speaking your language right now. Like, give them
Mm-hmm.
credit for even like knowing and being bilingual. Like, how many languages do you?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
No, for
Yeah.
real. I agree with that. And then I'm like so curious about speaking of colonizers, if we think about Spain, for example, in Spain,
Yeah,
when they speak Spanish, they have an accent. Well, they
a
have an
lisp
accent
maybe?
compared to people in Latin America.
Right.
They have
Mm.
like the
Yeah.
TH. And I wonder what that's like knowing, oh yeah, they have that accent too because of the colonization. It's very interesting. Like what does that bring up in dating? If someone meets somebody with the accents and they talk about it, that's the thing. At the end of the day, which by the way, one of our top three countries is Spain. So that'll be interesting if they want to, share their thoughts on what I just said. But anyway, in relationships, there's always going to be some form of diversity. Like you're not, even if
Mm-hmm.
the background is very similar, there's still going to be differences within that,
Yeah.
so people have to be very open. Like it doesn't even like whatever race, ethnicity, backgrounds of like the origin of where their parents came from. Like you still have to talk about the way you view the world and you know, how your lens has been molded
Yeah.
and shifted. Like those open conversations are so important to really get to know somebody and figure out oh yeah, is this someone that I can do life with for the rest of life?
Yeah.
I mean,
And it's
like
because
even
of
in
that whole like
friendships.
different thing. They have a whole different lens and like a whole different experience, and you can learn
Mhm.
from that too, you know. There's so
Oh
much
yeah.
Yeah.
from
There,
like
it's beautiful to learn, right?
yeah.
Like even in friendships, like open communication is important. Like
Mhm.
if you're not speaking to me openly, then I feel like at this big age of mine, like why would I want to be friends with you? You
Yeah.
know?
Yeah. Especially if you're like, yeah, because it's like, it's are you even really friends if you can't really like openly like convey
Mm-hmm.
how
Say
you're feeling
things.
about certain things, or just like being
Yeah.
open, like not willing to tell them like things like that.
I feel like the older I get, like adulting, time is so precious. So like to me, like being friends with someone, like it takes a lot of energy and time, right?
Yeah.
So like I think it's thanks to adulting, yeah, I also, choose and pick my friends.
Yeah, and we can
So,
also like decide, some of our friends we talk to every day,
mhm.
other ones we might only talk to them like every 3 months or once a year.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, but it's
For some friendships are very low maintenance in a way.
right,
Yeah.
exactly. And that doesn't
what
mean
are your what are your thoughts on low maintenance friendship?
I mean, yeah, I think it's great. Like, especially like, so I feel like it also depends on the situation too, of course. But I think that, you know, I sometimes I remember during the pandemic, like my family was pretty serious about it. We like shut down and stuff like that. Like I didn't really see a lot of my friends for like
Mhm.
months. So, and like, had like a decent amount that I was just texting here and there and stuff like that. And I'm also like, if I'm being honest, like I'm on the introverted side. I wouldn't say I'm like a full introvert, but like if I'm on the spectrum, I'm like slightly leaning towards there. So like, and I also just, I'm, I hate to admit it, but not the greatest texture. I mean, I'm just not great at responding and stuff like that. So, yeah, low maintenance friendships are definitely like better and easier for me, especially if I'm going through like a period where I'm trying to like focus on myself. In a way, I guess it goes back to like self-love in a way. Like you have to, know, in order to maintain a decent amount of friendships, you have to still, you
Pour
know,
into your cup,
yeah,
make sure.
you have to like be able to prioritize yourself and like, do
Mhm.
self-care, but also still be able to be there for your friends if they need that. Obviously, don't be selfish. Like low maintenance
Yeah.
friendship doesn't mean like, um, that you don't have to do
I'm not
anything.
going to reply anyone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like obviously that still takes effort. And if they need you
Hmm.
to be there for something, you still have to show up.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
Yeah.
I agree with you. It's like if you have those moments of, at least for my friends and I, sometimes when I think of the ones that we don't talk every day, it'll be there's an understanding that there's a reason that we're not talking every day. It's because
Mhm.
somebody's busy, somebody's sick. But if they needed someone to pick up the phone at some wild hour, we would pick it up. We're there for each other. Um, I think that's the thing. If as long as with your friendships, there's that understanding that you both love each other and respect each other. Isn't that what we all want at the end of the day?
Yeah.
Love and respect.
Yeah, 100%. And like in a core of like when you guys were asking about like relationships, that's another
Hmm.
thing that like goes into it is at the core of it, friendship, really. Like that's also a cliche, I guess, that some people cringe at, like, oh, I married my best friend or whatever. But I mean, this is literally the person you're spending your life with.
Yeah,
It better be your best friend.
exactly. Because you will be seeing each other 24/7 at your worst with, if you have children, with like baby vomit and spit up all over you. Like, it better
Yeah.
be your best friend. Shoot.
Yeah,
Such a good point.
I think a lot of guy times, I think girls are a little bit better probably about that in terms of trying to vet guys as personalities
Hmm.
than guys. Guys, like, I'm gonna vaguely put men in like three categories, very general categories, but I think majority of them are probably just superficial, and like a lot of guys just look for looks. And
Hmm.
I mean, nothing wrong with that. I think it's a great thing, a beautiful thing for like a husband to like look at his wife and just genuinely really think that she's beautiful. So I
Mm-hmm.
think it's good to, in order to have that, it's good to find girls. I mean, if everybody else in the world can think she looks like Medusa or like not great or whatever, but like as long as you genuinely think she's beautiful, that's important.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but still, like that shouldn't be the only thing because I feel like I know way too many guys that will go with a girl that's just toxic, like just not
Hmm.
good, just because she's gorgeous. And like, sure, credit to them. She might be drop dead gorgeous, but like bro, like look past it. Just like no, she's not good. She's toxic. She's not gonna be good for you. She's not gonna be a good mother to your children.
Hmm.
Like, yeah, it's
Right.
and these are not necessarily stupid guys either. Like
Yeah.
it sounds like a dumb thing, like at the end of it, like they're putting in such little like thought into a girl's personality, but a lot of guys that I just genuinely love and respect, even like smart guys that have like really good, they're like doctors and stuff like that are smart when it comes to other fields and stuff like that, and even life perspective and stuff like that. But when it comes to just this girl, they'll just fall head over heels over her, literally just because, oh, she's pretty.
That's so funny. Yeah, no, I've heard that a lot. Like, oh, like guys will get on each other because they know, oh yeah, they all date people for their looks, and then it always ends bad. But then sometimes you hear then they finally change their tune a little bit and they'll go for someone who's pretty, but their character is even, I guess, prettier. And then they're
Right.
shocked. They're like, wait, this feels different. And it's like, yeah, that's how it's supposed to feel when you go for someone who has like good character. Like, what is going on? And they usually also don't look the same way as maybe their exes looked, which is fine. I mean, it's a different type of beautiful or pretty, you know?
Right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. It's like kind of like goes into like, yeah, some guys have like a type, I guess, or something like that,
Mm-hmm.
versus you know, just go gravitating for like something completely different, or just, not looking for that anything like that entirely. Um,
Right.
yeah, I think a problem with a lot of guys is that they look at just simply having a girlfriend or just being with a girl just as like a big accomplishment, or like that it's like I just need to get one in the first
I
place.
think it's not only guys. I think it's guys and girls. Like
Yeah, I
we
think girls are
think
a little bit better in terms of like, I don't think girls necessarily think it's like the best thing in the world necessarily if they just get any guy. You know what I
mm,
mean? Like
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah,
girls
yeah.
are a little bit more filtering of that, and they're like want
Yes.
like a guy that's like, you know, in a way like
Of
worthwhile
their
and stuff like
standards.
that.
Yeah.
Yeah, girls have better standards, I guess, but like guys are just like, I just need to get one. Like it's like
Mm-hmm.
a trophy or
Mm,
something like that.
That's so funny. But
Yeah.
guys,
it's
I
true.
mean, that's part of that societal pressure that came up before, like, and masculinity of, oh yeah, let me get my trophy. And like to have one feels masculine and tough, you know?
Yeah, for sure. It's just like it's pretty like damaging kind of mindset of like guys are like getting the girl and girls are like giving herself to the guy. It's supposed to be two ways at the end of the day, you
Right.
know what I mean? Like a mutual connection. They both want to be together. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I remember as a little
Exactly.
kid, I was like thinking like, I mean, I'm like a straight guy, and I was just kind of like, so I can't really grasp the idea of being attracted to a guy, and then like but
Mm,
also seeing that like guys have to like there's some situations on TV, and like Hollywood's not the greatest at like depicting healthy relationships either, and you see a lot of guys like they have to ask the girl out, and like persistence is seen as such like a great thing when it comes to girls, even if it's like the girl's just straight up bothered. And like sometimes like Hollywood like will like reward the guy like for being persistent,
Mm-hmm.
like and borderline harassing the girl. And like
Yes.
so like the guy is just like constantly like nagging and nagging and nagging, and the girl's just like, fine, I'll just date you or whatever, right? Sorry, I
Mm-hmm.
don't know if I'm allowed to swear.
No, it's
But
fine.
yeah, the girl's just like, fine, I'll date you or whatever. And then they go on like a date, and then the guy just like trying to like woo her, and then like after all this courting and stuff, he has to get down on a knee, which I'm all for proposing and stuff like that. That's cool, but like he has to beg for her to marry him. Then she like kind of gets talked into it, and she's like, okay, I guess.
Right.
For a long time, I was just like, as a little kid, I was just watching this, and I was like, do girls even really want to get with guys? Like, like I was just like, I want a girl to want to be with me as well, you know?
Mm-hmm. Without a doubt. And that's such a good point. Like from that perspective of you when you were a little boy, like it's so skewed. And
Yeah.
it says, oh yeah, here's all the pressure that is going to be put on you to make this work. I mean, dang, no wonder why some guys freak out and panic and don't know what to do when it comes to dating.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, it's just yeah, I think it's just like a really damaging concept. Just like um, you know, the girl is like giving and the guy is receiving in terms of
Mm-hmm.
relationship, you know?
Mm.
It's
Yeah.
I think that's also like indirectly leads to like people like slut shaming women,
Mm-hmm.
you know,
Mm-hmm.
because it's kind of like the whole idea of like, oh, like we're the ones trying to be accepted into like whatever it is, you know. It's like guys look at girls in a way like they're like receiving like achievements in a video game, like, you know, you make the next level or whatever. I mean, like even like look at just like the term, like I got to home like second base or first,
Right, yeah.
that itself is reinforcing the idea that like doing certain physical things with women and like getting further, it's like you're doing, literally it reinforces the idea that you're winning in levels into a video game or like a baseball game, you know.
Yeah,
That's
absolutely.
and like looking at it like that, and what the girl is just what she's not winning anything either. She's not like she's just simply like what she's just like a trophy to kind of achieve. Like it just kind of makes it like she's like something that's like not like a human being that would mutually want
Mm-hmm.
to be with you. And yeah, I feel like it's important to kind of normalize that like both people need to be like equally invested in the relationship and putting in equal amount of effort.
Yes.
Yeah, there's a lot of things in that that just have, that's like a core issue that has so many different indirect effects.
Mm-hmm. Without a doubt. And I do like that metaphor of the winning. It's something to win. And it's like, oh yeah, no wonder people don't treat each other with respect. If everything is like this game, think
Yeah.
about it. When people play sports and stuff, they get brutal out there because it's so competitive and there's so much adrenaline. So if we look at dating with all that adrenaline and competition and, oh, what did you get? I mean, that's terrible. No wonder people suck at dating.
Yeah. And if you look at
Mm-hmm.
like the LGBTQ community, a lot of like gay and especially gay and lesbian relationships, those the lines aren't necessarily very clear of like who should do what in what
Right.
situation or like whatever. So like you don't really have that much of a problem with like slut shaming in those communities or you know or whatever what have you, because like they don't necessarily like care, because it's like there's not like a specific role that I'm supposed to place, like because we're both equally, we just want to be together. That's just
Mhm.
how it should be. But
Yeah, something those of us in the heterosexual relationships could learn actually.
yeah.
Um, yeah. Hmm. Makes you think. I love these points, Matthew. This is great.
Yeah, great.
Thanks. Yeah.
So
Alright.
those are all of our questions, but like we were saying before we even started recording, hopefully we all see each other in Chicago one day
Yeah.
and maybe get some deep dish pizza.
Yeah, try it. Have you guys ever had it before?
No.
Mm.
No.
I have to go to a gluten-free
Oh yeah.
vegan place.
That's right.
So there's certain cheeses that lactose intolerant people can have.
Okay.
So if I go to a gluten-free place in Chicago, then I can have it. But anyway, it looks good. But here's the thing though, Matthew, you've probably had like the Jersey, New York City pizza, and it's like so good, you know?
It is. It is good. I'll give you that. It's
Yeah.
really good. Yeah. I do love my deep dish pizza, but no, like New York pizza is pretty fire too. So
It is. It really is.
Yeah.
So, you know, they're like their own type.
Yeah, definitely want to come through to New York and also Malaysia as well.
Malaysia,
Like
you
by
all should
Kuala
come here
Lumpur
and
or something
then
like that.
come here and then we can go to like Singapore and then Bali's just beside and then Thailand's just beside too. So like
Yeah,
Ooh,
all
Yeah.
those are on my bucket list for sure. So
Yeah.
Bali's not that
absolutely.
great, by the way. I'm sorry to all the listeners, but
Really?
yeah, Thailand is way better.
Wow.
That's
Wow.
just my opinion, obviously. Like all the listeners do not attack me, but like, yeah, Bali's not that great.
Wow. No, I mean, when I hear Bali, I think amazing and bougie and
It's
beautiful.
overrated because
Oh,
like,
wow.
yeah, and then there are also a lot of cases where people get Bali belly, which is like stomach flu
Oh,
in Bali. So like, basically Australians like to go to Bali. I don't know why. So like, there's a place in Bali called Canggu, and like it's basically Australia. Like all the Aussies are
are there
there.
a lot of like crazy like animals over there or
Animals?
yeah.
You
Yeah,
mean
like you know
like
how there's that like
wildlife?
stereotype about Australia having like a bunch of crazy animals and stuff like that, they're, like huge and stuff is like I don't know. Like why I'm just wondering why Australians specifically are drawn to this place.
Right.
Yeah, I'm not
Such a
sure
good point.
too. But I should ask like my friends, like
Yeah, do they
why do
feel
y'all
at
like
home? Do
Yeah.
they feel at home because there's like a huge bug like that big?
okay,
Like,
okay. Like with all the snakes and the spiders that they get there. All right.
Ew.
Get it.
Oh, that sounds like the worst part about Australia. Ew,
Yeah.
gross.
But I still love Aussie. So
Did you see any things like that when you were there? Crazy
thank God
bugs?
I've not.
Okay.
And I'm going on Thursday basically, like to
Oh,
Perth.
really again?
Yeah.
Nice. Have a safe trip.
Yeah, have
But
a
like
safe trip.
there are a lot of sharks in the beaches in like Western Australia, so basically Perth. So like I really hope I do not like see any sharks. And the sharks basically come to like the beach. Like they come towards, you know, what do you call
The
that?
shore, the shoreline.
The shore, yeah. There was
Yeah.
one incident where a kid was literally like just by the shore, and then the shark came and it wiggled and it went back. So
Yeah,
like
I wouldn't be going too
yeah,
much in that water.
Mhm.
Also, you went to not Perth. You went
Melbourne.
to Melbourne in the winter. So now you're going to be in Perth in pretty
Summer.
much summer. So it's going to be different. Like you probably will see a nice big spider.
I have phobias with snake, so like I really hope I don't see any snake. But I think summer is fine because Malaysia is like all year summer. You know, it's always hot and humid here. So in Australia, I mean, now I'll be fine. But even the winter was fine for me because I have hyperhidrosis, so basically like sweaty palms and feet. So I love cold places because I don't sweat. Like right now, my aircon's on and it's like 16 Celsius, and I'm just happy. So when I went to Melbourne, it wasn't even cold for me. It was like 4 Celsius. So I think I can adapt pretty well.
So
Good
you were able to
luck.
like handle the winter weather like pretty decently, despite being
Yeah, and
hot.
I only like I was wearing a tube top because we were going clubbing, and I just wore a cardigan, and my friends were like, "Damn, girl," and I'm like, "Yeah, I do not," because they were thinking, I would feel cold because from here going there, but then I was like, "No, I'm fine." So,
Wow. Even my body takes a while to adjust. I was just in India like a couple months ago, and it was like,
mm,
right? And then when we landed in Chicago, there was like that polar vortex, and it was
mm-hmm.
cold, and my body was just in shock. It was terrible. My friends did not hear the end of it. They were like, but eventually they got annoyed by me. They were like, "All right, Matthew, stop being a baby." Like,
Right.
like we're suffering too.
I
Yeah, and
think in the
that's
winter.
funny.
Sorry, Aubrey, you can continue.
What I was gonna say is 2 seconds, because where Matthew lives is freezing, so that's hilarious.
Mm,
But I mean,
I think
where
then
I am, it's cold too, and I can't handle it. So
Yeah, it's
I think maybe it varies, like in Australia and America, the cold. So probably I'll be freezing when I come to America.
oh yeah, it's way colder here than it is in Australia for
Yeah.
sure. Oh
Like in
my
Australia, it was
gosh.
just like 4, 5 Celsius. I'm sure it's like negative, right? In America.
yeah, I guess negative. It was like negative. Well, I don't know Celsius. I'll be honest. I'm the
Yeah,
American child, but like,
Oh,
yeah,
sorry. Yeah.
yeah. I don't
we
know
speak in
either.
we speak
yeah.
in
Whenever you say Celsius, I'm like, I don't know what that means, but I'm assuming it means through context what like cold or hot.
Yeah.
But,
Yeah.
yeah, no, it gets like
yeah.
negative. I think in Celsius, like negative like 12, negative like
Wow.
20-ish. It gets pretty bad. Yeah,
Yeah,
especially recently,
absolutely.
like because of the polar vortex. I will say this winter was colder than most winters
Hmm.
because of the polar vortex. It actually like I mean, probably because of climate change, it's not a great thing, but like every
Yeah.
winter has been progressively getting warmer and warmer, which I
Hmm.
enjoy, but it's not doesn't have great implications for the world.
Agreed. Like today's 44 degrees, which is 6 Celsius about. So, I mean, that's pretty good,
Yeah, no, like
unfortunately.
yeah, I remember after that like crazy like negative weather, like once it got up to like that 30 degree, 40 degree, which is like around 0 Celsius to like single digit Celsius. I was
Hmm.
like, that's when I knew I was like used to the Chicago weather. I'm like, oh, it's warm out today.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But yeah, Matthew, thank you so much for your
Yeah.
time. We really appreciate having you on.
Our
And
first male guest on the pod. Thank you
I'm
for
honored.
saying yes.
I'm
wait, he's
honored,
not
man.
he's
Yeah.
not he's not our first male guest. He's
Oh
our
wait, sorry, I
second.
forgot. I
Yeah, didn't you guys
forgot
have
about
that
Shinji.
finance?
Yeah, we had a finance guy on.
Yeah, I
Yes,
Yeah.
yes,
remember.
yes.
Yeah. This is our
Okay.
this is our first male guest to talk about like social
Mental
stuff.
health.
Mm,
Mhm.
Yeah.
right, right.
Yeah, which was awesome. So we like to have a male perspective here and there. So thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
We really
Yeah.
appreciate it.
Yeah, I'm a fan of the pod. Like, I'm glad that I got to come on, represent We Are Saath, and yeah, thank you guys for having me. If you ever want recurring guests, I'm down to come out again, like
Oh
every
yeah.
year or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah,
Absolutely.
So, if you want to know more about Matthew and his work and his passion towards the mental health organization that he has a role in, that he's passionate towards, it's on Instagram at We Are Saath Chicago. So, at we WeReSaatChicago. So We Are Saath Chicago. And you can find him there and find out all about the organizations.
All
Thank
right.
you.
All right. So now it's time for our affirmations. And this week, the affirmation is a reminder that you are worthy. So you're worthy of living, breathing. You're worthy of eating whatever it is that you have that craving for. You're worthy of the promotion, all the things. And if anybody ever told you you weren't worthy, not to be rude, but that person's not worthy.
Mm-hmm.
And
Good
who
one.
cares? Yeah, bye to them. And so just be kind to yourself and be gentle with yourself. And so, yeah, that's our affirmation this week. You are worthy. Thank you so much for listening to our podcast. Please make sure to follow us on Instagram at Girl Chat International. That's Girl Chat INTL on Instagram. If you want to follow some of Berchen's content, follow Daisy Girls on a Roll, and follow Aubrey's content on truthfully.yours.blog. See you all soon on our next episode.